You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday, and I hope you really enjoyed, for those of you that watched our premiere of our interview with BX. I just want to say hi to everybody over there in the chat. And look, I really appreciate you guys that have now become members and are supporting us in that way. That goes a long way. Look, it gives us some resources to be able to do some additional things with this channel. And if you believe in what we do, and you want to support us in that way, we really appreciate it. If you can't support us in that way, look, I get it. Not everybody can afford to give some YouTubers some money, but what you can do that's absolutely free is share our content. And we'd also appreciate if you hit that like button, you subscribe, but not just subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell icon and select all so that it gives you the best chance of being notified when we do make more content like this and we go live or whatever else that we do. All right, so what I want to do is, first of all, Becca BX is on the line right now. She has she's watching her daughter, and she's doing some things over there that she can't be on in video. But BX, welcome, and thank you again for coming on once more.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, no worries. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being as courageous as you have been throughout this and everything that you do with this work. I know you've been threatened. Your kids have been threatened. It's thankless work, to say the least. And I just appreciate you being out there, being a voice of reason, and being a voice of someone that is out there letting people know about this. I didn't know about this. I feel like I'm a pretty informed person. And the fact that I didn't know about this, I don't know, I felt guilty to some extent, but
it's still kind of a surprise to me. Yeah. It speaks volumes, right? That somebody who's online, who's got, their ear to the ground, hasn't heard about this yet. Every time I hear someone say that, I'm kind of like unsettled.
Well, I think it really points to the fact that this information is being suppressed. Just like I said in the podcast, the fact that the news doesn't cover this stuff. It's not a sexy topic that you see a lot of content creators covering either, unfortunately. We're going to do our best to help change that, to help promote your work and to do what you can do. Like I said, I think you do it better than everybody else. Folks, she has a 6-part docuseries that she put a lot of time and effort into. It looks very professional. It's very informative. Please go watch that. All the links to all of her socials are down in the description below. So make sure you go follow her and you go support her as well. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to get Becca on, and we saw a bunch of questions that I knew would come up and some things that, I always know that there's going to be gaps of things that I forget to ask a guest, especially on something as complex as this topic. So what I wanted to do is have Becca on after this so that you guys can jump in on this conversation. There were several questions that I saw in the chat of the previous that I want to make sure that we get answered here. One of the questions that I saw asked in the chat, and I don't know if you have anything about this. What do you know about George Zinn?
Lady, turn down, please. Thank you.
BX, did I lose you?
Did you say? No, I'm here. Did you say George Zinn?
Yeah, I know that he was actually brought up on pedophile charges.
Wait, remind me again who that is.
George Zinn is the guy that claimed to be the shooter right after the Charlie Kirk. And I said pedophile charges. He was brought up on child porn.
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah. I don't really have many thoughts about it, honestly. I think that the true number of actual pedophiles out there in the world would shock most people.
I agree.
I think and there's been a couple of situations where people who were kind of around these investigations tend to get investigated themselves, and something kind of turned up. I think there was a similar thing that happened with Ryan Ruth, the guy who plotted to assassinate Trump at Mar-a-Lago. His brother was actually rolled up on similar charges, like right after. So definitely not unusual. I don't really know what else to make of it, because I don't have any information saying that he was a part of any of these networks or whatever. And most likely, I guess I have to kind of point out that these networks are fringe. They're fringe. They're not as big as you might think, and the number of actual pedos out there is just insane.
Yeah.
So most pedophiles aren't part of these networks. It's just because they're just sick people.
Yeah. We covered a lot of ground in our discussion, and I thought it was, I left that conversation that we had just kind of speechless. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wish we had? Anything that we might have left out?
I think that it was, as I remember, it was a pretty thorough conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh.
Ginger Lee wants to know, why is it that Becca, who is very intelligent and informative, a regular mom, finding all this information, and there isn't anyone who monitors or polices this information? Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. Monitors or polices the information? I'm not really sure what that means.
Basically, what she means is like, why is it being left to you to bring this information to light?
All right, that's a great question. Well, for one thing, I think that that's a really great question. There's other people, but like I mentioned, I think during our interview, I've been kind of ostracized. I'm kind of the black sheep of this kind of area of expertise. There are other more official experts, but they mostly write paywalled articles for like academic journals and stuff. And they're usually pretty far left on the political spectrum, and they just don't like me, I guess. It's like, that's really the only explanation I can have. But I mean, there are other people who talk about this. The FBI has come out and done several PSAs about it. There have been documentaries made in other countries. Other countries were way faster than the US to jump on this train and start talking about it. So it was really weird to me for a little while when the US wasn't talking about it at all. And meanwhile, I'd been on like documentaries in Canada, the UK, Australia, Sweden, and the Netherlands. Finally, the FBI did start talking about this stuff, and it did start coming out a little bit more. But I think that the reason more creators don't talk about it, it's probably because, like I mentioned, it's just not a sexy topic. It's not something that, it's not algorithm friendly either. So it's a lot of creators will shy away from this kind of stuff because they know that it's going to be suppressed, or the algorithm's going to ding them, or they might get a strike on their YouTube channel for talking about it. So I think there's a chilling effect that comes with discussing any kind of child exploitation online, especially something as serious as this. That's the only really explanation I have. I wish I had more. I also feel like this information is just now starting to get out and be mainstream, because like as the months go on, the number of people who are becoming aware of these groups is actually growing. Every time that there's an event, every time there's a news break or something, we're seeing more and more people start to come on board. So I think it's only a matter of time, honestly. I hope it's only a matter of time.
I agree. Well, and to your point, there may be a lot more content creators that are speaking about this, but we just don't hear about them because, again, it doesn't show up in our algorithm. I think you're right. It is a chilled topic, both from an algorithm standpoint, and then obviously there's been repercussions like YouTube completely just taking your channel and censoring you completely. So I mean, and trust me, even I was talking to my producer. I was like, hey, man, what do you think is going to happen? Just us airing this. He's like, man, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't know. Hopefully we don't suddenly just lose the channel because we talk about this. But if we do, guess what? It's freaking worth it. I
don't think so. I
don't think so either. And I hope not. But you know what? If it does happen,
a lot of podcasts on YouTube, and they've all been fine. But it does kind of sound like YouTube's already kind of out to get you. So
Yeah.
I really do think that's a real thing. Like there are actual humans that go, I don't like this channel, and I'm going to start giving them strikes. And unfortunately, that's part of YouTube.
Yeah, we got to jump on the crazy conspiracy bandwagon. We'll get a lot more likes and views and boost it in the algorithm for sure. Jen says, have you, BX, ever heard of Alex Rosen? His channel, Predator Poachers. I know he expresses getting the Telegram networks of child porn, and he is a boots on the ground. Thank you for what you do. You ever heard of Alex Rosen?
Yeah, I did a catch with Alex. It was a few months ago. We did one in Austin, Texas. It was both disturbing and also hilarious at the same time. He's just a really funny guy. I have a lot of respect for Alex because
yeah, you were breaking. So nice. I don't know if it, sorry, I don't know if it was me or you or what. You were breaking up just a little bit there. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Yeah, I think Alex is a huge guy, but he's so nice. Not nice, but like really, really cordial to these veterans. Just basically just buy him time until the police get there. And what's so bizarre to me is that he's somehow able to keep these people there and talking. They could just leave, and they do. It's just so weird to me. But Alex is a great guy. We've worked together a few times, and yeah, he does important work.
I'll have to check out his stuff. That's interesting. I'll check that out. Kelly Rabone says, hopefully, Kelly, I'm getting your name right. I don't know if it's Rabon or Rabone. I feel like it always takes someone to take the first step. Great job being that person. So, by the way, we're going to actually have Kelly on Thursday. She will be live with us. She's a former journalist and former news anchor, and we're going to be have a great discussion about citizen journalist ethics and what we need to do if we're going to effectively replace the mainstream media. So I'm looking forward to having you on, Kelly.
If I'm coming in and out, I can switch over. I just got back to my computer, so I can switch over if you want. I just have to leave and come right back.
Yeah, if you don't mind. It's breaking up, and again, I don't know if it's my internet.
Yeah,
I don't think so, but it's yours.
Probably me. It's probably me. Right. Let's see. Hold on a second.
Desiree says, you never know who is a ped. I hired a lawyer that was middle-aged, well-known in my community. He was busted. Wife never knew. She divorced him, and he is still in the pen. So that happens for sure. All right. Now we got you. BX, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Let me remove this one. All right. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you very much for doing that.
You got it.
Perfectly clear. Frederick says, Frederick Leathers, where's the interview? Frederick, right now the interview is on our YouTube channel. You can go check that out. We will get it posted to Rumble shortly, but it's not there yet. Thank you. Let's see. I can speak again. I apologize for accusing Gary, but what I was trying to say is that I watched Barron's last 2-3 hour long streams, and he didn't speak about Gary and how it was not signal, only noise. I don't know what you mean by that. I know you're talking about the accusations from Barron. Be happy to discuss that further after. What we want to do, folks, is get some questions in for BX. I will stay around longer if we need to answer additional questions, but we will definitely, I want to try to keep it focused on that. When she leaves, she's got to go take care of her kids. I want to be respectful of her time. Does BX know of the armed queers of Salt Lake City and their recruiting efforts? I want to know if it is true. Are you aware of, I know that's kind of outside.
No, it's not. I mean, really, that's like I think I talked a little bit in the in our podcast about it. But yeah, no, there are definitely these like radical transgender militant cells that are arming themselves, and it's sketchy. I've seen several of these groups kind of popping up. I don't talk as much about it because honestly, these groups kind of scare me, and they're dangerous. Like I really do think they are. But I have done a lot of research behind the scenes, just kind of monitoring that landscape. And yeah, no, it's ugly. It's definitely out there. So I know Salt Lake has some. I know Colorado has a lot. There's one here in Dallas, in Texas. So yeah, no, it's definitely a thing. It's real.
What do you think the driving force behind those groups are?
Well, again, it's like, the same kind of concept of, getting these people into a Discord and indoctrinating them and on Reddit, especially getting them to believe that like Donald Trump himself is going to bust down their doors and detransition them. Like they really do believe that transgender people are going to be put into camps. And it's really scary to see how brainwashed they've become and that's scary too, because it's one thing to disagree with someone politically or to push for political change, but when you can convince a group of people that their lives are in danger, you can get them to do some really dangerous stuff. And so I think what we're seeing is a new crop of violent extremists developing, and I think that it's going to become a problem here soon. I really do.
Interesting. Let's see. Kaylin wants me to ask you, can you ask her opinion of the hundreds of migrant children missing from state facilities? Not hundreds, it's thousands from, as I understand it, but
we're talking about the Homeland Security or sorry, the Health and Human Services thing.
Yes. I think amongst others, I think there's the
there's
problem.
Like more than there's even more than thousands. There was like, I forgot the number, but it was actually alarming. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense too. And you got to wonder what kind of nefarious stuff's going on behind the scenes with these kids being trafficked to cartels and trafficked for labor exploitation, trafficked for sexual exploitation. Like it's really, really bad, I think. I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but just from what I've seen, what I've read about it seems very, very terrible and alarming. I don't think any child deserves to be exploited or trafficked. No matter how you feel about immigration, I think we should all be able to draw the line at kids being hurt. So yeah, it touches my heart for sure.
Marie TN says, have you ever worked with Ryan Montgomery?
Yeah, I recently was introduced to Ryan. We haven't worked together too much. We just kind of have an open line. I was introduced to him when we were working with a group of people on the Roblox stuff, including Schlepp, the Roblox creator, the YouTube creator who got banned from Roblox and kind of started this whole big PR disaster for Roblox. I was kind of behind the scenes and all that too, because Roblox is so prevalent. Like the 764 network is so heavy on Roblox. That is the place they love to find kids. And so I worked with those guys a bit on the Roblox stuff, but yeah, I haven't worked with them like extensively.
Interesting. Desiree, she says, thank you, Gary, for having BX on the talk. I had my own experience with my daughter when she was younger. It's discussing what vile, repulsive adults will take advantage of children. Parents need to know. That was one of the things that you and I talked about extensively. I think some of it was captured on video, but I think that is the key, right? Like parents got to get more involved with their children, and they can't just I think you said they don't need to have you shouldn't give them electronic devices at all, something along those lines.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit, and I thank you for Desiree for speaking out. One thing that really hit me hard is like I was actually at a bar like near my house one day, just hanging out because I had a few hours to kill, and just struck up a conversation with the guy next to me, and within about 15 minutes, we were talking about this stuff, and he disclosed to me that he had a son who was targeted by sextorters just literally that week, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, this is kind of crazy to me. I'm thinking like you could just go into a crowd of people and throw a rock and hit somebody who's been affected by this. And it's so much more common than people think. I think that it's like stigmatized. People don't want to talk about it, but I think it affects more people than you realize. And I would also say, like, I'm not a big proponent of keeping kids away from electronics indefinitely. I think that's, in school, they're already learning technology use because that's going to be their future. Their future is going to be on computers. And,
Sure.
and I'm also a firearms instructor, and I treat this the same way as I treat guns, which is that your kid needs to know what to do if they discover a gun. Even if you don't have a gun in your home, they're going to go to other places. So same thing applies with digital devices and phones. They're going to be at other friends, or they're going to be at a school, and they need to know about this stuff anyways, even if you keep electronics away from them. So I do think that there's a way you can teach your kids to use devices responsibly when they get older. And I think that that's actually something you have to do in this day and age.
Yeah, I agree with you on the firearms analogy too. I mean, we can't just pretend they don't exist, and that's where kids' curiosity and things take over. Where when they do come across a firearm, they've never seen one before, and they're curious about them. And not teaching kids gun safety early on, I think, is a real misstep, to say the least. Dennis Green says this topic hits hard. I've personally been seeking legal accountability for events from decades ago, and it's been a hard road. Thanks for your work. Hey, Dennis, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I don't know exactly what you mean, but it sounds personal. And I don't know. Hopefully, when we can get the word out, what BX is doing, the little bit I'm helping her out on that, because this is very near and dear to my heart as well. Hopefully we can prevent that from happening in the future as well. So, Desiree says, was there ever a time you thought of stopping because you felt in danger? Thank you for being brave. It takes a lot.
Yeah, I think about stopping every single day of my life. To be honest, like, it's definitely, it's taken a great personal toll on me. And this isn't like something, most creators online, or especially on X, where I'm the biggest on X, right? Most of them, they just go from one topic to another, and they don't sit on things. And so having sat on this horrible, evil thing for a very long time has definitely weighed on my soul. And, not to mention the dangers, but, I feel generally pretty safe, but, it's awful. I think about quitting all the time. I'm sure I will one day. I would like to get to a point where everyone is talking about this first.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I would say that if your goal is to make money off of this, you're not being very strategic about it. I'll just
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. This isn't a grifter. This isn't a place for grifters to sit because the algorithm doesn't like it. People don't like it either. I mean, like in general, people don't want to keep hearing about this stuff. That's very much a bummer. So, yeah, it's definitely not an easy place to sit.
Guess who from Twitch says, how does BX deal with being a fearless investigator, a mom, and the number one person the ex-FBI agents and grifter go after to discredit her work?
Thanks, Guess who's an old school community member from back when I used to do Twitch gun streams. So I appreciate being in chat today. How do I deal with that? Come on. And I really do want to just push that reiterate that I'm just a normal person who just kind of accidentally fell into all of this. So like, I had a comment earlier that was just like, well, you put yourself here, so why are you complaining? And, blah, blah, blah. And I just want to reiterate that, like, I didn't really put myself here, like, intentionally. I don't know if we really talked about my lore, but it's in my part 2 video of my docuseries. It talks about how, what happened was I started to look into the 764 network, and then some victims came to me about a predator online and asked me to help them. And in doing so, I ended up becoming a target myself and was a victim of violent threats and harassment. That's when I went to my local police to file a report. And then they asked me to come in to make a report to the station. And when I got there, the FBI was there. And they were like, do you know how serious this is? And I was like, no, I'm an idiot. And so they were like, at that point, I was able to give them all the information that we had collected on these people who were harassing and threatening me, and also who had victimized these kids. And those 2 people went to jail. So that felt good. And then I just kind of kept going because I was just like, I was just alarmed that no one was talking about it. How did I not know that this was a thing as a parent? That's terrifying. I wanted to get this message out to parents. And so that's kind of what kept me going. But I'm really just here by accident, man.
You know, it is funny that you seem to be being attacked from lots of different places. And I mean, I started following you recently on X, and just like the amount of hater nonsense that you get, it's like, to me, it's almost like somebody standing up in the middle of a burning building saying, hey, the building's on fire, and everybody like, shut up and sit down, you idiot. Like, it's so bizarre I can't quite wrap my head around.
And I think about it all the time, because I do get harassed and attacked, but there's a couple of notable exceptions where higher profile people came after me for some bizarre reason. But aside from that, the day-to-day harassment I get, there's usually two types of people. The first type is people who are angry that I'm getting the attention and not them. And the second type of person is the person that's mad because they're in the groups I'm exposing. So I just always caution people when they see people attacking me or smearing me or whatever, to be a little bit, to scrutinize who that person is, and, go do a little due diligence. Ask yourself, are they actually disputing any of my claims or doing anything like that? Or are they just like baselessly attacking me and smearing my character? And kind of use that as your basis for whether that person is good faith or bad faith.
Yeah. I think that's a really good litmus test right there. Old Ghost Guardian says, Gary, can BX update us on the latest legal note? I can't read tonight. Latest legal news on those FBI arrests in North Carolina.
Which FBI arrests in North Carolina are we talking about here?
Well, hopefully Old Ghost Guardian will update that information. Do you have any FBI arrests that you're aware of, or anything?
Well, there was a, quote, leader of 764 who was arrested in North Carolina back in like April, I guess. That was huge news. The FBI definitely wanted to pat themselves in the back for that one. He was, we use the term leader really loosely here. Trippy. Yeah, that's the one. His 764 name was Trippy. His actual name was Prasan Nepal. It's funny how many of these scary 764 neo-Nazis end up being something other than white, right? It's kind of bizarre. But so this guy Trippy was arrested, and the charges against him are very severe. And we use the word leader really loosely here because it's a decentralized network. So there's really not a leader. But when we say a leader of the group, what we mean is like a person who was really high up in the group, very respected, and was organizing Telegram channels and recruiting people and spreading propaganda and that kind of stuff that you would expect a leader to do. I don't have an update. I think, let me see. I don't really have I have a spreadsheet of all the arrests. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I think that his next hearing is next month. I track all of these hearings. I spend a lot of money on Pacer. I'm going to the sentencing of Kyle Spitz in January. That'll be I think that's going to be a really huge thing for me. Because it'll be nice to see one of these people get sentenced, and there's going to be a space for victims to talk. And there's going to be testimony by the FBI. And it's going to be a pretty big deal. There's been some threats to the courthouse already. So, it is a terror group. I've heard some people kind of say like, oh, it's not really considered a terrorist threat, but it is. It's considered a tier 1 terror threat here in the US. And so it's a very dangerous group. But I'll update when I have more information on Trippy. If you follow me on X, I always update.
Folks, go follow BX on X. Speaking of not understanding things, this is a comment that I don't understand. What a boring topic. Pedos have been around since beginning of time and aren't going to disappear.
Sus.
Get over your trauma and move on. I mean,
it's a sus comment.
DOS comment. Like there's hundreds of thousands of kids that are being victimized every single year here in the United States alone, much less abroad, because these types of groups are working abroad as well.
Yeah.
And if we can stop.
True. It's the international threat.
Like if I knew that I could stop 10,000 per year, I would dedicate every moment of my time to this. I just don't get it, Joe.
Sounds like a troll comment. I get that kind of stuff on my Twitter posts all the time. I usually just block people. I've gotten really block happy lately.
Yeah, that's you know what, Joe, you're blocked. Joe just got blocked for saying dumb things. Kaylin says, thank you for answering my question. My own opinion is both government and cartels are both trafficking them. I think there is, I don't want to say that. I don't have any proof of that. I'll leave that alone.
I mean, there's a lot of, opinions things that you could consider, but
from some complicity in letting things happen, even when they know about it. I'll say that as far as
true. And there's corrupt people in every spot of the government too. And I'm sure there's tons of government officials who are in the pocket of the cartels. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure of it. Like that's a fact. So
Banksy Main says, is there any validity to Erica Kirk being linked to a Romanian child sex trafficking operation? The man that ran the organization was definitely a PDF creep, but I'm not sure about the rest. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, that's way out of my realm of knowledge. I haven't really been paying attention to most of that stuff. I'm sorry. I would kind of be hesitant to believe any like extraordinary rumors though, like right now.
Yeah, I
certain
agree.
People.
There's a lot of mudslinging going on without any sort of evidence or even circumstantial evidence. Just like new stuff like this pops up all the time going toward Erica and TPUSA that I just like, give me some, like, it's bizarre to me. Donnie Mickelvain says, really enjoy the content and the honesty that's so rare in today's world. Well, again, I want everybody to make sure you guys think BX, she's been doing this. I just came across her work and thought it would be great to talk to her and kind of hear what's going on there.
I see people talking in the chat about the fingerprint on the gun safe. Can I just get I just want to just put this in here. I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but if you haven't heard of the Stop Box, you should go check it out. It's a pretty cool mechanical bedside safe that I've been using for a long time. And as a gun person, I really, really like it. It's called Stop Box.
I agree. We've actually have reached out to them to become a dealer for those. I think there's some good use for those for sure. Kelly Rabone, relatable, and it's not light, fun topic. I get it, but you feel purpose and mission. So
yes,
give me some kudos and some encouragement there. For some of you folks that are asking more specifically Charlie Kirk questions, we're going to save those. I'll happily stay on here for another hour and answer everything that you guys want. Here we go. K-Luck, BX, what about public schools' role in transitioning kids without parents' knowledge? Any info on legal protection for parents against this indoctrination?
I don't know. I live in a kind of a small town in Texas where you don't have any of that shit. But obviously that sounds terrible. But that's definitely not a question for me. I'm sure there's better sources out there.
Yeah, look, we didn't get into anything like that with our kids in school, but we had a couple of, I'll just tell you, we had this supposed person that was invited to talk to the kids at school about anti-bullying and self-image. And then while that person was up on the stage, our son came home and told us that it devolved into her saying that, and by the way, she's the wife of another female teacher at her school, which is really rare here in West Virginia, especially in this rural area. I mean, we are kind of like I don't know, we're fairly close to DC. So if there's going to be there's some weird elements here. There's no doubt about it. But that devolved into her up on the podium telling kids that she used to think that being gay was wrong, but she felt like that God told her that it was okay, and went into like a really bastardized version of a sermon explaining to kids how she got confirmation directly from God that being gay was okay. So we went to the school the next day and headed out, and then that was the last time that our child that year, he finished out the year. There was a couple months left in the year, but we made sure our voices were heard with that. Now we're getting into a gun safety debate over here. We'll talk about that at another time. I think I bet that BX and I are pretty, I don't know. We agree on a lot of things with that goes. I don't necessarily think that, safes and all these things like that. I think you should use them, but I don't think that is the end all be all. I think needs to be some training and some gun safety awareness thought, and we'll just leave it at that. Let me go down here. All right. Folks, I know BX has some things to do. I told her I'd keep her on here for 30 minutes. We've gone 5 minutes over. If you got any final questions for BX, throw those up. We're definitely going to have her on again. I think we just scratched the surface on a lot of, not only this topic, but there's a lot of ancillary topics that we could be discussing and talking about, because a lot of things go into this. There's definitely different facets to this. BX, you got anything else that you want to share with the viewers out there?
No, I appreciate all of you guys' kind words and stuff. I would just say make sure to share the podcast that I did with Gary around to parents. My goal has always been to get this information to parents, because again, I really think that, there's several ways to tackle this problem, but I think that the most direct way is to educate parents on the dangers out there to their kids, and, get them to monitor what their kids are doing online. And we could prevent victims in the first place. We can really stay ahead of this problem. I definitely recommend sharing all of this information with people you love, and checking out my docu-series it's on Rumble and on X. You could watch it either of those places if you want to kind of know more about how I got here. It's less of a documentary about the threat landscape and more about like how I ended up in the middle of it, which is kind of an interesting story, I guess. I also have a Substack where I publish a lot of free articles, a lot of free resources for parents, and along with some paywall content for people who want to go a little bit deeper and support my work. So just really appreciate Gary for giving me a platform to talk about this stuff. It's much, much needed.
Yeah, and you have an open invitation. You can call me up at 3 a.m. and we'll go live that moment. Whatever you need, we'll do it. Last question for you, and I'll let you get out of here. BX, what would you recommend in terms of how to best introduce your kids to technology and the internet?
Yes, actually, I'll tell you a funny story, right? When I started to get into this stuff, my kid was young, like 5 or 6. And I think I went a little bit overboard kind of talking about bad guys, and I ended up scaring my kid, right? Because she, like, oh my God, bad guys. And now she's all scared of bad guys, right. Which, for me in the position I was in at the time, I was definitely reacting to my environment and my surroundings. But, maybe it would have been good if she was just afraid of monsters like a normal kid. So I might have gone a little bit overboard, but what I told her when she started, watching YouTube or just like being interested in the internet, is that, I tell her that strangers are, that talking to a stranger online is the same as talking to a stranger on the street. We don't do it. That people online can tell you that they're anybody and make you believe them. They can use AI now to make you think that there's someone that they're not, and that talking to anybody that you don't know without your parents' permission can put you in danger, just the same way that talking to a stranger on the street can. So that's the limit that I'll talk to my 8-year-old, right? But, as kids get older, you need to have age-appropriate talks with them about extortion and sextortion as well. And, things that people who might try to pretend to be their boyfriend or their girlfriend, and why it's, the things that can happen if you end up trusting the wrong person. Also, like I said, just having that open line of communication, that your kids know that you're their advocate, you're their teammate, and that no matter what happens, they can always come to you for help. I think that's also really important. So don't I see a lot of parents that just go, well, this would never happen to me because my kid doesn't use a device. And it's the same thing with like the people who don't want to teach their kids gun safety because they don't have a gun in the house, right? Your kids are living in an age where they're completely surrounded by technology. Their friends are surrounded by technology. And so there's really no way. It's almost dangerous to try to keep them away from it, right? Because it's going to make them more interested. So at a certain age, you need to teach, smart use of the internet to your kids. So don't bury your head in the sand and say that this will never happen to you, because I've talked to a lot of normal parents with normal kids, normal lives, siblings that are doing normal stuff who've had kids who were the victim of this group. It's really, really sad to see them stigmatized for speaking out. I want everyone to know that this could happen to anyone.
Yeah. BX, if you haven't done it already, I think, some sort of instructional, something like that, you could put together and put online, I think would be really good. Or I don't know if you promote or are aware of any good software tracking tools that, that are beneficial to, putting on your kids. Like, that's one thing, like parents, number one, we can't pretend this doesn't exist and just hide it. It reminds me a lot of like, those I grew up in a very religious household, and we saw all these Pentecostal, by the way, folks. So I grew up in this very strict, United Pentecostal house. And we saw these Pentecostal kids that would go off to college where, all these parents pretended like their kids would never get involved in drugs and drinking and all this other stuff.
Right.
And they would go off to college and they would be the worst. And they would have ODs and like all the stuff that you didn't think your kids would ever, because they never had that conversation, or they stigmatized it so much that when people like, oh, this isn't what my parents said it was, so this is all a lie. It's not like, so I think there's some similarities there, but like any information or tools or anything like that, I think putting together a instructional for parents, I think would be, very, very beneficial.
I don't have anything for like tools because I haven't gotten to that point with my kiddo yet, but I'm sure I will eventually or soon. But on my Substack, there is if you scroll down just a little bit, there's an article called 764 warning signs. I did put that together for parents who are just hearing about this for the first time and are alarmed and thinking, oh my God, how do I know if my kid's involved with this and I don't even know, right? I've had people message me and say, hey, after watching your podcast, I went on my kid's device and found he was in one of these Discord servers. So yeah, it can be very scary. So I have an article called 764 warning signs that talks about the red flags that your kid might be getting involved with one of these spaces, which I know is kind of more reactive than proactive, but that's what I've got right now. I guess I'll look into some of that other stuff though, for sure.
Yeah. And folks, again, even her Substack, all her socials, go follow her on her Substack. She puts out a lot of good information on there. I've looked through some of the articles and things that she's written. We got Cognizant Dissident putting that up right here. Click that link. But again, we also have those down in the description below if you're not watching this live. And BX, I'll let you get out of here. I know you got to put the kiddos to bed and all the stuff that goes along with that. And I really appreciate your time and appreciate all your efforts and the work that you do. And if you need anything from us, just let us know. We'll be there.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. And thanks, chat, for all the great questions. And I hope that this was helpful to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Have a
bye.
good night. Bye. All right, folks. So you heard it. If you have any questions for me regarding this, I'll happily discuss it. If you have any questions regarding the Charlie Kirk stuff, we'll definitely discuss that as well. One of the things that I wanted to bring up tonight that was brought up last night, we had I can't think of his username at the moment. I was hoping he was going to be here. But what was asked for was a flyer that was put out that was prior to, like, there's a bunch of people online saying that the information for the Charlie Kirk event was only available a day or two. So the narrative is that somebody inside had to tell Tyler or whoever was involved with that whole thing, insider information of where to be, where Charlie was going to be, all this thing. All right. So here we have, this was actually released August 27th. And this right here is talking about the exact location. All right. UVU and in the UVU courtyard. Now, once you get inside the UVU courtyard, folks, it doesn't take a brainiac or anybody else to sit there and realize where the person is going to be standing. It's pretty obvious, right? As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll share this screen right here and we'll just look at it, right? So I'm going to remove this and I will share this screen and we'll go up here and I'll talk a little bit about this 3D model as well. I know people were wanting updates on this, but basically, it's like, and not only that, there's plenty of events that have taken place here in the past. So it's very obvious where a person is going to be if they are a guest speaker. Make sure I'm sharing this and I'm not, because you got to hit it twice. All right. So again, we have the UVU courtyard here. And it's very obvious where anyone was going to be if they're a guest speaker, right? If they're doing any sort of events, there's been lots of events here. So this is where they're going to be. Like, you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure this stuff out. So there's that information. And so we actually have the flyer, UVU courtyard. This was released August 27th. I'm sure after, also a couple of locals told me that there were flyers going around locally and there were billboards even before this information went out from TPUSA. So the point here is we had at least 2 weeks, more than enough planning time to figure out what Tyler was going to do. And ironically, or to kind of validate some of that, we see in the text messages where Tyler Robinson is talking about that he's been planning this stuff for 2 weeks. Hanselman says, how would you know the security level? I'll tell you how. You plan the attack like you're going there. And then what you do prior to an attack, look, there's this thing called the attack cycle. Maybe one night I'll just do a full brief class on this. I think it's really important for people to understand how people are targeted for attack. And this is some of the things I used to teach for the Department of State Diplomatic Security. But you have an attack cycle. And so you identify the target value, the vulnerability, how you're going to exploit that, and all those things. And then before the attack, you confirm those things. We know that a person went up to UVU probably a couple hours prior to the attack. There's now reports coming out saying that there was somebody there that matches Tyler Robinson's description that actually was out on the roof days and weeks prior to this attack. I think those are unconfirmed reports. We'll leave it at that. But you don't even need that. If you know what's going to happen and you've been there before or whatever else, or you go there and plan this out, what we do know is that Tyler actually, we see someone, I'll just say that. We see someone go there prior to, and that's the thing. Once he gets up to the top of that handrail and he looks around and he's ready to go operationally, he has his firearm with him. All he's got to do is confirm the vulnerability, and the vulnerability is the lack of security. So once he's there, he can call off this attack at any point in time, right? But he's just standing there. He's like, wow, there's nobody here. So then he goes out onto the roof. He puts his gun together or whatever he had going on with that. And then he crawls out to the edge, gets in the prone, and is like, nobody stopped me. So we take the shot. So, he doesn't know the security level necessarily. So, that's what we have. It is not that. Yes, he has the gun down the back of his pants. I think that's very clear at this point. Let's see what else. Yeah, it really isn't that hard. What about the stage riser, the tent size, height, raise supports specific placement? Oh, yeah. All right. So Old Ghost Guardian's talking about this. CJ was in the comments earlier. CJ's name is CJ Carenti. And let me remove this and add this. All right. So we have this model, and this is the part that has become problematic. We got this model, and this is good, right? We got all this information. This is hundreds of gigs of information, literally the compilation of thousands of photos and other data points. It is data heavy, to say the least. Now, what we've done is we've had CJ Carenti's, he has dedicated hundreds of man hours, computing power, multiple engineers, multiple teammates. A lot of people have been working on this and getting the tent and everything else. Number one, dimensionally correct. They've had lots of eyes on this. There's been major corrections on it, and we're trying to get it into. I don't think we're actually going to be able to get it into this viewer. There's a couple of other software, some of which are free. There's one called Rhino. There's Blender, and some of them are more user friendly than others. They're going to get that implemented. He's actually supposed to send me a copy of that tonight, and over the next day or two, I believe from his last text message, let me just pull this up, that we actually have all this done. Yeah. All right. So I sent you a link to the file via email with instructions to download. You can also follow this link. All right. So we have it done. Now what we need to do is, once we have that, we're going to push that information out. I'm going to get on here and I'm going to verify and make sure as much as I can that everything looks correct. There's some other people, even a few people on X that are good at 3D modeling and have been helpful in this process. I want to send them links to it as well. They can go over it, proofread it. I want to get this right. So, and then once we do that, we'll make the file public to everybody. Not everybody's going to be able to use this. It's not exactly super simple. Ultimately, what we're also trying to figure out a solution to is being able to host this on a site like this that's interactive. Here's the problem. This Pix 4D cloud is like, if we suddenly gave links to everybody for this site, if we had thousands of people on this thing, it would just crash. All right. It's not built for that. This is a subscription service. It's really only used for 1 or 2 people. Very limited use. There are other options where we might be able to take KML files and just drop it directly into Google Maps, Google Earth that people might be able to use. We're working all those options. But I can tell you, this has been very informative already. And just going through now, the model that CJ is working with, which takes a lot of computing power, it already has all the details in there. We have the tent, we have everything the right height, the right length, the right weight, everything is at the right elevation, directional, all those things. I mean, just a ton of data points that have gone into this that hopefully will help people. And again, if you believe in, a different shooter or whatever else, you can kind of play with those things. And you'll be able to figure some of those things out. And hopefully that's helpful and to everybody out there. So that's where we are on that. I hope to be able to preview the full thing on Friday. That's what we're shooting for. Patty said, that's probably what broke your stream the other day, too much bandwidth. Maybe. I think so we have Starlink here. That's the only option I have in this area. I don't have an option of fiber or anything else. And again, I apologize of the bad audio stuff and everything. We redid that show. Hopefully you've watched that and we've covered that content. Most of the time, Starlink's going to work fine, even when it's raining and things like that. Unfortunately, just the other night was like the one time, like we'll have a little bit of the audio cut out a little bit, video will get a little frozen. We never had issues like we had the other night, and she could be right. I don't know how much we were using that. I guess we were. Like she could be exactly right. So just like AM says, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, all those things. Denise said, did the autopsy info change? Well, I'd be careful what we mean by the autopsy information. If we're being very accurate with that information, number one, the only real information that we have as far as autopsy that I'm aware of, and somebody correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, we have a secondhand account from, part of it was a secondhand account from Andrew Colvett. He kind of got some information from there that he relayed to Stephen, and it's secondhand. I don't know how accurate it was. I don't know how all those things. Stephen Gardner. I even talked to Stephen Gardner about this, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know how precise he was talking." So look, there has been no official autopsy released, and I don't expect one to. That information is going to be shared in the trial for obvious reasons. So there's that. Immemoralk, which I've never seen you in the chat before, so welcome. Look into this guy, Ventology, the founder of the eponymous religion and author of Transmaxine Manifesto. Apparently that's related to Tyler's furry boyfriend, Lance Twiggs. Yeah, and that's the thing, Denise. I don't know how accurate those details from Andrew Colvett were. It was secondhand information. I don't know how accurate or technically correct that information was being relayed from the doctor, and most of that I think was from the surgeon. I do think there was some information relayed directly from the medical exam that was given to Erica and them in a group. So I just don't know how accurate it is. I heard that also you would think that they could ping his phone before the event. Look, they have, if his phone was on, and quite frankly, even if his phone's off, I don't know if they'll use it. Look, your phone can be tracked whether it's on or off. That's why God made Faraday bags, right? God inspired people to make Faraday bags. We sell those. Like, I'm a big proponent of Faraday bags. Your phone can definitely be tracked even when it's off. Now, most of that capabilities is not released and not typically used domestically. They can, though, just so you know. They can turn your phone on remotely, even if it's off. We've been doing that since like the mid 2000s. It's how we captured and killed a lot of bad guys overseas. So there's that. Matt Martin, what about the ballistics? They ever come in? They did come in. They're in, Matt. They're not going to be shared with you. They're not going to be shared with me. The ballistic information is in. The prosecution has it. The defense has it. It's not going to be shared publicly until we get to the trial. Something else that came up, and I don't know how much people know about this. A question came up about DNA the other day. I don't remember if it was, I don't think it was online. I think it was in a comment. And people said, well, that was crazy that, you know, it takes weeks for DNA results to come in. And, you know, for DNA testing to be done to be able to link Tyler to the firearm and other components, right, where his DNA was found. Folks, it doesn't take weeks, months, or anything to do DNA testing. It takes a couple hours in a lab. The problem is where most people think that it takes weeks and months is because the backlog of certain things, like it just takes weeks to get to that particular case or whatever, right? So that's why it takes so long. DNA can be done fairly quickly. And if they prioritize this case, which I guarantee you they did, I know they did, because we did get information. It's in the charging documents. And if we need to go back over the charging documents, because folks, I have a real problem with so many internet personalities that have failed to discuss the charging documents. I don't know if they're intentionally avoiding them. They don't know about them, whatever else. You figure out whatever motive, and I'm sure the motive is different from a lot of people. But the charging documents are very clear about a lot of information. It's very clear to indicate that there was more video captured than what was released. It clearly talks about seeing a person essentially low crawl. I have to look at it, and we can go over them if you guys want. But there's a lot of information in those charging documents. And the problem that I have, and the reason I think they're true, is because if they get to trial and any piece of that charging document ends up being false, or, you know, again, it talks about how the parents both testified in the charging documents that Tyler confessed to them. We get them on the stand and the defense says, hey, did you confess? Did you testify? And did you say that Tyler confessed to the Charlie Kirk's murder? And they are up there on the stand. They say, no, we didn't. Well, now we have a real problem, right? Now we can genuinely say, hey, it sounds like there's a lot of lies in these charging documents. And that may be end up what's happening. I don't think so. There's a lot of evidence in DNA. They talk about, hey, the DNA was found on the trigger. The DNA was found in other parts of the gun. The DNA was found on the spent cartridge. I guarantee you there's DNA from his up in that exact spot. Like, I guarantee you they found DNA evidence of that. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. There's useless entry wound was bigger because damage bounced from tent structure. There's no indication that actually hit the tent structure, whatever. It's possible, but we haven't seen any indication of that. There could be other things to explain that, the strange ballistics, but so far we don't have enough information to come to any conclusion. That's right. CJ broke my stream. Thanks, CJ. You broke it. You know, speaking of which, CJ, before CJ and I were talking about revealing the complete model on Friday. So CJ, let's do this. Let's make sure that we jump on and maybe do a test run that's not public before that, just in case that is the problem. I am seriously considering, I probably will upgrade to business stream Starlink. It's like another $2,000 in equipment, and you're charged by, like, you can buy like 500 gigs up to a terabyte. And look, we'll go through a terabyte pretty darn quick, especially if we're doing this all the time in 1080, which I would like to do. Look at this. Breaking news. Cargo plane crashed, multiple warehouses in flames in Louisville, Kentucky. Let me go over here to a news channel. I'm not seeing. Oh, UPS cargo plane explodes. I might as well just share this page. We'll share this tab instead, and you guys can check this out. Also, I want to talk a little bit about, there we go. All right. So UPS cargo plane explodes after Louisville crash. Casualties reported. At least 3 killed after UPS plane crashed in fiery Louisville disaster. Catastrophic. We can play this. It's probably going to make us watch an ad before we can even play this, but hopefully not. Yeah. We're not going to do this. Oh, we got to skip. We can skip ad. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Breaking news. All right. So here we can see that there is a major issue. Plane crash going on right now. Hopefully I'm actually, there we go. I'm sharing this. Sometimes get through here and start talking and then realize I'm not sharing the screen because StreamYard is not a friend of that. All right. So you guys can look that up and check that out if you'd like. Not good. ChatGPT lied to me about Planeteer ownership. I think it's just as shady that Phil owns it. His interviews are shady and his involvement. Folks, we got to stop relying on ChatGPT or Grok or any of these other things as a sole source of information. Those things do some things really well, but they're not definitive and they get a lot of things wrong. So please don't fall victim to that. We all know, like verify through a couple different sources. Get off of Google too. Look, if you use Brave, you'll get different results. If you go use Firefox, you'll get different results. Don't get stuck on one source and don't believe everything the AI has to say because they get a lot of things wrong. All right, Matt. Sorry, I missed this question. Sorry, Gary. I was trying to ask about the ballistic dummies. I have them right over there. All right. I haven't had a chance the weekend before last. We had a course. Long story short, I will get some ballistic testing done for sure. I also ordered 10 blocks. Just so you guys know, I ordered 10 blocks of ballistic gel. What I want to see is penetration tests prior to wasting. Like, you only get one shot with these ballistic dummies, and they're like $2,500 a piece. What is it? Is it Ballistic Labs? I don't want to get it wrong. Anyways, the place I got them for did give me a good deal on them. But the fact is they were close to $2,000 is what I paid for them each. And I want to get some things right. And I just haven't had the opportunity. I've dedicated a lot of time and effort to this. Went to UVU, all the things. I still got a business to run. And I promise I will get that stuff done. And you guys will see the results. It is what it is. Look, we'll get it done for sure. There you go. All right. I don't know. Sounds very smart and definitive. I think that's probably about right. FBI can get DNA results done in 4 hours. That's not true. Penetration angle is only possible with the ricochet from tent structure. That's not correct. I can just tell you that is not correct. Mega Man, can that be done with de-Googled phones too? I'm not 100% sure on that. I think it can be done to look, if a phone is using the networks, and even de-Googled phones can, I think there's a high likelihood that those things can be tracked, can be all the things, right? It doesn't take much. There's extremely sophisticated AI programs that they can upload. Most people are going to be aware of Pegasus. We're on like Pegasus Gen 12 now. So there are things that can be done to your phone that you just don't realize. And I think it's smart to use things like VPNs and de-Google your phone. And there are some protections involved with that. That being said, I think most of those are going to protect you from criminal elements. Once you get into high-level state-sponsored tech bros, the U.S., Israel, the U.K., the Five Eyes, like I think you're spinning your wheels. Don't be under the bad information that you think you're in stealth mode, because I just don't think you are. I hope we get the CCT footage from the computer science building soon so we can be sure someone didn't shoot from the curved roof that had the perfect line of sight. Again, the computer science building is just about the only other option that to me makes possible sense. So Old Ghost Guardian, and I'll show you. Matter of fact, this red line, he and I were talking. I know this guy. He's not a very good person. I can tell you that right now. I'm just joking. He's awesome. Anyways, this red line is his. So this is, if you were going to match the trajectory of Tyler Robinson and you wanted a patsy, this is about the only other place that is feasible. All the other, I've looked at the angles, especially once you get the tent in there, and we need the tent in there even to confirm this. But if you follow that red line, it's one of the few lines that you can draw a trajectory and more importantly, a line of sight. Trajectory will give you a little bit more clearance. We'll get, you can clear some things by a few inches more than this line will. But this does give us a trajectory and a line of sight, and it's pretty much the only other place that does. So he's not necessarily not onto something. He is. And if you are going to have a patsy, and again, I'm open to these ideas, and I will say this is probably one of the most credible possibilities that I've heard so far. So there it is. Oh, I was completely showing the wrong screen. I apologize again. Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing. I need a producer in studio. That's what I need. All right. So, sorry, let's do that over. So you guys can see this is, I was talking to him earlier and we plotted this potential location, and it really is the only other, you can see that this line is not broken by any structure, right? So that means we have a line of sight to Charlie Kirk, and it's really the only other credible line of sight. And people are going to be running with this, and that's fine, because at least we're going to talk about a additional or potential alternative theory. Let's at least come up with a good one, and this one is. So hopefully you guys can see that. And yeah, So that's a real deal there. Ginger, Gary, did you say that the back of Charlie's shirt moved upper back? Thank you. Yes, I don't know exactly what you mean, but let me see if I can pull up a video real quick. You guys bear with me. I will pull up, and hopefully we'll find the one that. Oh, I do have a big announcement to make. Let me see. I got that picture. Let me see if this one is playable. And no,
all right,
it's not that one. So where is that? I can never find these videos, and I always have them somewhere, and then I find them after the stream. Look, there is, so for instance, I'm going to pull up this picture. It's not the perfect picture, but it does describe what I'm talking about. So let me remove this. Let me remove that from Studio. We're going to add a image file. We're going to go to this one. Go to this one and this one. All right. So this kind of does the thing. Kind of shows you what I'm talking about here. Look, there is a portion of this picture in this video. This is not the frame that we want, but that has a clear indication. This goes to an apex back here, this huge hump area. So it goes to an apex where there's clearly a projectile coming from his front to the rear. And by the way, this is confirmed. There's other footage from his left side. There's footage from his front side. Everything that we have in here indicates a shot to the front. And another thing, I meant to bring this up the other night. So Range Day Bro, he just recently did a video. You guys could check that out. I don't think he's necessarily a bad guy. I think he's incorrect. But I got nothing negative to say about him. He shows a shot on a ballistic dummy from the rear. So a lot of people are saying right below or around his, people say different things, but around his hairline down here and where the collar is, people are saying that that's where the entry wound, or there is an entry wound there. And then it comes out the front of his neck. That is, number one, from where even Range Day Bro says that trajectory doesn't line up. Between even back here to where we see the wound on the front of his neck, it doesn't line up, but I digress. The point here is where even in the video, he kind of basically says, hey, this confirms some things. The thing that it basically tears, that test tears down his entire argument in my mind, because you can clearly see this huge, you can see the entry wound, right? Like it's obvious. What we see here doesn't look like anything that we see in that ballistic gel. And I'll be the first to say that the ballistic gel is not a super good analog for human beings. Ballistic gel does not simulate all of what you're going to see when and it's a torso, same thing I have over there. But he kind of, I think he undermines his own theory. I think it's very clear to me that he undermines his own theory. I can have Range Day Bro on here and we can talk about it. And I want to make sure I'm not mischaracterizing what he's saying. But I just think that his testing kind of proves my point more than it does his. But if that's what you're asking, yeah. So that's kind of my take on that. When considering the condition of the ammo, also remember the crimp or lack thereof can cause keyholing, etc. Yes, there's a lot of things that can cause keyholing. Like, we don't know all the stuff, and I know I'm repeating it for many people, but maybe there's people on here that haven't heard this before. If we're going to say, hey, this is not what we expect from a ballistic, 30-06, everybody knows that it's definitely going to penetrate. First of all, you don't know that. The problem is the things that we need to come to those conclusions, we don't have. We need the weight of the bullet. We need the type of projectile that it has. We don't know that. We need to know if it's factory ammunition or if it's hand-loaded ammunition. We don't know that. We need to know the condition of the ammo. Was it old ammo? Was it exposed to the elements? All of those things can dramatically change our expected results. The problem that we have is that 99% of people out there that are saying, oh, I got a 30-06 and this is what I saw. You're using new, good ammo that is a hunting round. And yeah, that's you're using 150 to 180 grain bullet, somewhere in there, maybe up to 200 grain bullet. That is full velocity ammunition. There is low velocity ammunition or low recoil ammunition available. I can sit over here on my reloading bench and I can load 30-06 ammunition right now that wouldn't penetrate a pumpkin. I mean, those are facts. Like, we don't know all the variables that we need to make a determination. We don't have. And I know that's not very convenient for a lot of people but you know, again, I ask the question time and time again, are you interested in truth, or are you interested in confirming your pet narrative? And I don't really care. Like we find out tomorrow that we have evidence that there was a third shooter, a fourth shooter, that the CIA was involved, that Israel, like I will be the first to air that stuff. Oh, the big announcement that I wanted to make. I want to make sure I get this live. Now, you guys know, many of you maybe even started following me because the first couple videos I put out, I talked about body armor. And I've always stated, number one, even in that very first video, I was very clear. I was like, hey, I don't know this for a fact. And I've always clearly delineated, hey, this is what I think. I don't have a lot of proof of this. And by the way, I've also presented proof of, like, hey, you know what? There's definitely times when I think it doesn't look like he's wearing body armor. I've been really clear about this. I will just tell you right now, I got confirmation, what I believe is very clear confirmation today. And it's from a guest that I will we will have on the show in the next, it will be a groundbreaking interview, by the way. But it's a person that was there, and he confirmed for me that he was not wearing any ballistic protection. That's what he told me. So at this point, I will happily say that I was wrong, and I'm not married to anything. I gave my interpretation of what I believe was taking place at the time. Come to find out I was wrong. But I've always been very careful and very clear that, hey, this is my opinion and I could be wrong. And so it is my responsibility that when I get new information, which I got today, saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong about that. So that's what explained the ballistics to me the best. And even what we saw, man, it still looks like it hits him in the chest. But again, the other thing too with these ballistic events is it's such an energetic event, and things are happening so fast with these 30 frame per second cameras. There's so much information being lost in between frames. We see, 1/10 of what's actually taking place, which is, that explains a lot when it comes to these type of events. So anyways, I want to put that out there. I feel pretty confident at this point there was no body armor, and I just want you guys to know that I was wrong. But I'm the first one to come out and say that. Let's see. Well, if you use charging documents, ? One can't really run wild with their conspiracy theory now, can they? Notice not a question. Yeah, you can. I don't know which interview that you're talking about. I saw a recap of the interview, basically the commentary from Diligent Denizen on X. He said he interviewed the grandmother. I've heard it said that she never saw him shooting a gun or hunting or anything else. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what people like. That's not definitive in any way. First of all, he also said somewhere in there, and I don't remember exactly, but he did indicate that she thought that he shot guns before, but never saw him shooting guns or never saw him hunting. Like, both of my sons have attended multiple carbine courses, pistol courses, have done a lot of shooting here with me personally. One of my sons is attended when he was 8 years old. He attended our advanced long range courses. There's people in the chat that were in that course with him, by the way. He was shooting 1,100 yards when he was 8 years old and making multiple hits. He was engaging multiple targets at multiple distances, under time, under stress. He was 8 years old doing that. Guess what? Who has never seen him do any of those things? Not a single one of his grandparents. So I don't know how much, like, I don't know how close to his grandparents Tyler was. I mean, like, I don't know. Was she there at his house every single day? There's clear evidence that he has grown up shooting. There's pictures of him shooting. His father gave him the 30-06, which is also in the charging document. I don't know if anybody knows that. That's also in the charging document. Really important to know. There's also in the charging document, it also states that there were shot targets at Tyler Robinson's house. This is information that a lot of people don't know. They've never read the charging document, and all their favorite content creators have failed to inform them of that. Like, that's fine if you don't believe that Tyler Robinson was the shooter, but you are dishonest if you're omitting information that is available. And when you have, and people do, and whether it's me or there's other content creators out there, these people are relying on you to summarize all the information. And quite frankly, they're relying on you for all the information that's available to us. And they think that you're going to be an honest broker of the truth. And you're going to share with them things that confirm your pet theories, and also the things that don't confirm your pet theories, so that they can come to their conclusion on their own. But the problem is we have too many people that aren't doing that. They're not being honest brokers of information. They're omitting facts and evidence that are out there, and they're pushing forward their own set of facts and evidence that most people wouldn't consider facts or evidence to begin with. So that's how this thing is turned into a psyop, in my opinion. I mean, people are just confused because they're not being informed by the people that they trust. I've seen a couple of videos of Jesse's on fire. Now, I know for a fact, Jason, that the weapon was a Mauser. So Jesse is just wrong about that. You can look at the action. That, like, if that's what he's saying, he's wrong. It's a Mauser, period. It is. As a matter of fact, I got one right there that somebody sent to me. I got a Mauser right there. The action's the exact same, for sure. Oh, he's wrong. I don't know. I don't tell you about that. I agree with this statement. Tyler was given a lawyer with excellent reputation. He's actually getting special treatment, in my opinion. The whole thing, there was just recently, maybe it wasn't recent, maybe I just watched it recently, but there was the interview with the sheriff or the police chief that was involved in his capture, or, you know, his surrender. It talked about they definitely negotiated some special treatment. There's no doubt about it. He's also being allowed to wear civilian clothes, you know, casual clothes in court. There's some weird components there, but it's also Utah. They do things a little differently there. That's for sure. The thing said one of the cartridges didn't have DNA. All right. So let's do this, folks. Like, I think we need to do this. I don't know, even if one of the cartridges didn't have DNA, that doesn't mean that we don't have a match on the other thing. So anyways, let's just stop for a minute. Let's go back over the charging documents. I think it's really important that we do that. So you guys bear with me. I'm going to pull up the charging documents, and we are going to do that real quick. And I think it's a good reminder for people that have seen it, and for those that haven't seen it, you should have seen it a long time ago. I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm just saying that people haven't shared this information, and it's a shame, in my opinion. I'm going to try to drop this in a window here. Let me see if I can do this. I've done this in the past. Boom. All right, perfect. All right, so we're going to share this tab instead, and we're going to go through the charging documents. We're going to highlight all the really important stuff that most people have never seen. We'll remove that, add that. All right, we'll take Denise's. We're going to make this as big as possible, and then I'm also going to blow this up a little bit so we can we have good clarity of what's going on here. Let me see if I remember some of the stuff. I wish I've highlighted this stuff in the past, but all right. So we got plaintiff. The state of Utah is the plaintiff versus Tyler James Robinson. First count, aggravated murder, capital felony in the violation of Utah code. That code. All right. Tyler James Robinson intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Charlie Kirk under the following circumstances. The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to an individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant. Conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty. Victim targeting enhancement. In violation of Utah code, whatever that code is, Tyler Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because Tyler Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child, aggravating factor. All right. He did it in where children were present. Felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, first degree felony in violation code, Utah code, that one. Victim targeting enhancement, violation of Utah code. Tyler Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Violent offense in the presence of a child. I don't know if these they're repeating them. No, it's additional counts. So these are multiple accounts. So it's more than one. Count 3, obstruction of justice, a second degree felony in violation of Utah code. That one. Tyler Robinson was with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense, concealed and or removed. Concealed and or removed. I lost my place because I checked back to make sure I was actually showing this. Firearm used to shoot Charlie Kirk, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be capital felony or first degree felony. Count 4, obstruction of justice, second degree felony. The defendant, Tyler Robinson, with intent to hinder, prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense. Destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing he wore during the shooting. All right, so he changed clothes multiple times. And that, like people are like, that's not him, or all these other weird things. No, he changed his clothes, and that shows intent to deceive. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. Tampering with a witness. All right. Robinson believed that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted, intended to prevent an official proceeding or investigation. Attempt to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony. Tampering with a witness, same thing. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child. There's that. Probable cause statement. All right, this is where things get juicy and we start getting into some facts that are laid out in this charging document. If this charging document ends up being found to be false, based on testimony at the trial, then we can start talking about deeper conspiracies for sure, and that this is all lies, and now we can't trust any of the evidence. I don't think we're going to see that, but it's possible. At approximately 12:23 p.m., Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd at the campus of Utah Valley University. Police found the suspect murder weapon, a bolt action 30-06 rifle nearby. Over the next approximate 33 hours, police conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th, 2025, when Robinson surrendered to the police at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. After shooting Mr. Robinson, the gun discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, count 4, and told his lover roommate to delete incriminating text messages and to not talk to police. Children were present at the time of the shooting. Turning Point USA, founded by Charlie Kirk, organized a public event. The event at UVU was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest. Consequently, several hundred people attended. There was more like thousands. Then approximately at noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and microphone. The UVU surveillance investigation. At the moment of the shot, UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for a potential sniper positions. He noted a roof area approximately 160 yards from Mr. Kirk as the potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the suspected location, a person must climb over the railing and drop to the roof only slightly below. The UVU officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position, confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position of Mr. Kirk's seat. He also noticed markings in the gravel roof top consistent with a sniper having laid on the roof. Impressions in the gravel potentially left by elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. Police reviewed the surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15 p.m. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area the UVU officer recognizes where the suspect sniper had dropped into a prone position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual rose and ran across the roof to the northeast. Now, I just want to make a point here. All of this stuff is captured on camera. We haven't seen it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It clearly does. And that's what they're saying in this charging document. We continue. The camera later captures a let me see if I missed anything up here. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. The suspect walks with a very light bending in his right leg, consistent with the rifle being hidden in his pants. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railing off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. The camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Immediately after his shot was fired, the camera captures the suspect running across the roof, carrying an item whose shape is consistent with a rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs toward the northeast end of campus. Let's get down here to some more. All right, so each rifle round contained an etched inscription as follows. Notices bulge, OWO, what's that? You guys have seen this before. The rifle, ammunition, rounds, and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and the towel. So you're correct. Somebody, Denise said that looks like one wasn't found. I don't know that that's all that important. It could, DNA is somewhat fragile to some extent. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published photos of the shooter at the UVU surveillance cameras and asked the public to help identify him. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to try to identify the shooter through other means. Robinson's mother stated on the evening of September 11th, 2025, Robinson's mother stated the following to police. On September 11th, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was at home sick, and he had also been at home sick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspect shooter looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans-right oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with the family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Cook would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle police suspected the shooter used matched the rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was a shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turned himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who's a retired deputy sheriff. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male, who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, provided those messages to police. Drop what you're doing, look under the keyboard. Most of us have seen all this stuff. If you want to read that, you can download the documents themselves. Search of Robinson's residence. All right. Let me see. All right. Police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU. Police also found several targets with bullet holes in Robinson's home. All right. So, I mean, that's a lot of information, folks. That's a lot of things that I haven't heard put out by a lot of other content creators. And I think it's really important. Kelly Rabone says that's not true. Rapid DNA in Salt Lake City has amazing labs. I have been there personally. It'll be fun to have Kelly on Thursday. Sorry, Gary. I was trying to ask about the ballistic dummies. Okay, we got to that one. Let's see. What David says. Yeah, I mean, that's the agents weren't smiling. I really hate this one. If anything, Rick Cutler, who's the agent, you're saying agent, he was a security personnel. He wasn't smiling. There was blood. I don't know. Like I put out a video about this. They didn't need paramedic help. They had med staff. They didn't need anything else. It is all totally normal. So I mean, the problem is people are making things unnormal and pointing out facts that either are incorrect or don't exist at all, and they're trying to turn something into something that it's not. I mean, that's the reality. Why did they say implied he was a shooter? I mean, I don't know. We'll probably hear their exact statement in there. Like they, you know, I don't know. I don't know. We know what we know from the charging documents. I don't want to even speculate. I think that would be wrong on my part. I do. I agree with this. I've gone through some of those facts and updated and dated changed. Again, what I consider facts, I think, are very different than some people, and I don't know. I don't know what I think that would be kind of an exercise in futility to some extent. AM says, please hit the like button. Yeah. Logan Run, no, they didn't. There were some people there, looked like EMTs or something that just recently came out, but they were en route to the hospital before an ambulance got there. That's true. Where is Lance now? Lance is most likely in protective custody, if not custody. The FBI definitely knows where he's at. So people saying he just disappeared is not true. It's not accurate. You know, he's likely in protective custody. He may be in custody. He may be being charged with something. I don't know. Greg says, why didn't they show footage of him taking the shot, only running across the roof and jumping down? The reason was, first of all, they're not going to show him taking the shot. That's going to be evidence that needs to be presented to an unbiased jury. So there's that. And they need to see it for the first time before it gets out. And like every bit of piece of information we have seen come out gets completely like corrupted. It just gets changed. You have eyewitnesses coming forward and talking about what they saw. And as soon as they give their account of what takes place and it doesn't confirm some of these other theories, people just attack them personally and just, you know, I mean, it's a little nuts to me. Like, here this person is, excuse me, everybody says they want information, which is actually a lie. But everyone says they want information, And then when an eyewitness comes forward and gives you information, you determine that it's not the right information that you wanted. It doesn't confirm what you want to hear. So now you undermine their credibility and attack them personally. I mean, that's what's happening. So the reason they put out the footage, and people forget this, and I did too. Somebody brought it up during the live stream like a week, two later. And like, hey, that footage was only put out for someone that knows this person to identify them. And his parents saw it and identified him the very next day. So I know it's not the information people want, but here's the thing, like the FBI could come out and lay out all the evidence tomorrow, and it could be mountainous, right? And it's just overwhelming to prove that Tyler Robinson did it. All right. And there's a huge sect of people that will not accept that. They want to believe you have all this evidence that we already have, all the things we talked about in the charging document. They don't want to talk about it. They omit that information. And then when they are presented other evidence, if it negates their theory, they undermine, like, oh, we can't trust that information. No, you can only trust the information clearly that reinforces what you believe. All right. That is not a logical way to approach any of this. It's not honest. It's dishonest in the worst way. It's not logical. It's just not the way to go about this thing. Yeah. And this is a great point. Logan's Run, those were campus emergency services. I guarantee you a security detail had more experience in the UVU emergency services. I have just had a conversation about the exact training that all the security personnel went through. And it's extensive, both and what they do prior to each one of these events. Yeah, I agree with this, David. I mean, Twigs could be involved. I think he is involved. He at least, I don't know, like if he gave material support or whatever else, but he at least knew about this. I think there's almost zero chance that Tyler didn't share this information or what else was going on. Yeah, no worries, Denise. Didn't go to the wrong hospital. I brought this up the other night, Logan. You're far behind, bud. He went to the nearest hospital that has traumatic injury response capabilities. So he went to the nearest hospital, which was Timpanogos, was like 4 to 6 minutes away. The next one, that was a level 3 trauma center. The next one was UVU Valley or whatever. That was like 12 minutes away. That is a level 2 trauma center. There's one closer that's like 2 minutes closer, but it is not trauma rated. They went to the exact nearest hospital that had trauma capability. That is a fact. And anyone saying it otherwise either didn't do the research or they intentionally lying to you. You choose. We know. Okay. All right. Well, let's do this again. Let's just do this. All right. So, let's just go to Google Maps real quick. We'll do this again. One person at a time, right? Actually, let me pull up those documents. I have from the exact spot where they were. Let me go here. I will pull up from the exact spot. This one right here. This right here. I've been having some issues with some Word documents coming up lately. But and then it'll like freeze. All right. So this was from the Timpanogos Regional Hospital. Let me copy this. And I'm going to cut that out. And I will plug this in up here. All right. I just want you to see this because clearly somebody, oh gosh, wrong thing. Clearly somebody didn't square you away with the truth there, Logan's Run. And we're going to do our best to do that. Let me pull this up again. Let's see what we got here. All right, I definitely cover this on. I'm trying to pull up this link on this Word document. Let me just click it. Let me save it, and it is right here. All right, so I'm going to share this tab instead, and we're going to show you what we have going on here. Boom. Me. All right. So Logan's Run. Here we go. This is from the environmental, exactly in the spot where they had the SUVs. Okay. So exactly from the spot. Oh, that's the hospital. Hold on. Let me show you where we're at down here, because that's important to include as well. Yeah. All right. So this obviously right here. Let me just make sure I'm sharing this properly. Yep, we are. All right. I'm competent tonight. All right. So this is where they were. They left right there. All right. Now this is to the Timpanogos Regional Hospital. Now, right now, this is to do with time. Generally speaking, around noon or so, it's been 6 minutes, and we have that going on. Now, I want to show you the other hospital that has emergency or trauma capabilities. And let me do this. We'll open up this tab. This link in there. Share. That did not share the correct link. All right, let me try that one more time. All right, so this is Intermountain Health. Just so we're clear. All right, so this is the other hospital, the nearest hospital that was available. All right, and it is Intermountain Health, Utah Valley Hospital. That one is 11 minutes right now. So 7 minutes versus 11 minutes, almost 50% more time, just so we're clear on that. Now, there is another hospital that's like a minute or two faster than Timpanogos, but it does not have any capabilities. And here you are. I'm not trashing you, Logan's Run, but you could have looked this stuff up and you never have, but you just took somebody's word for it and have perpetuated this thing that's not true. This is misinformation of its worst kind. It's just lazy. I'm not saying you're lazy. I'm saying that people perpetuate it. But if you really care about this, everybody, don't take my word for things. Don't take any, YouTubers or freaking social media personalities' word for stuff. Look it up for yourself and verify that information, because this has been a perpetuated misinformation that has been going on for a really long time, and it's still happening. And it's like we've covered it multiple times on the show. And I don't know what else to do. Yep. Twig's grandpa is a doc. He lives in Hawaii. That's probably a good start of where. Yeah, everything that I've done to research Rick Cutler seems like a stand-up guy. I would love to talk to him. Occam's razor. Finally, I'm seeing Occam's razor used in the correct way. If evidence indicates TR was a shooter, TR was most likely the shooter. This is the only channel on YouTube that stays dedicated to the ballistics and the science of the assassination. Thank you for staying on it, Gary. And now we know about the lack of body armor. You're welcome. Hey, when I'm wrong, I'm going to be right there to say it. And I don't have a problem. But I'm very careful, and I try to stay disciplined. When I start opining and, you know, giving my opinion that is speculation. I'm like, hey, this is it. But the other thing I'll do is I'll also like, hey, this is what some people believe. This is what some people believe. These are, when we have circumstantial evidence, all circumstantial evidence is open to interpretation. And you can either paint it like, a great example of this is what's going on behind the table when they're working on Charlie. You can say, oh my God, they're back there. It's very clear to me that they're finishing him off. They're choking him. They're like all the stuff that people have said. Or you can say, well, let me present to you another plausible scenario. They're actually back there doing stop the bleed. They're actually they're addressing massive hemorrhaging by packing the wound. That's like, as regardless of those two that I believe, it's my obligation, if I'm going to share information with you and give my opinion on stuff, if I'm an honest broker of information, I'm going to put both of those out. But when you only choose one and you put that out and you leave everybody in the audience believing that nonsense, and you haven't done any research, you don't know anything about, addressing massive hemorrhaging or whatever else, like, you're doing the entire story a disservice, and truth is no longer what is important. And then, by the way, when somebody like Gary says, hey, you know what? Okay, well, that's a possibility. You know what else could be happening? We could be doing stop the bleed, right? We could be packing that wound. And then your reply is, oh my God, he's paid by Israel. He's a Fed. Like, no, that's just a logical thing to conclude. But you're going to go with I'm a Fed because it offsets your crazy speculation. I admit it's speculation. Why? Because we can't see what's going on. But I will tell you, my version of speculation is much more plausible than their version. And by the way, folks, like, yeah, from that camera angle, we can't see what's going on, but there were bystanders all back there. They could see what was going on. If they're back there choking Charlie or killing, like, people could see that. And who knows what other cameras are back there that are now state's evidence. So, like, it's absurd if you put any critical thinking to it to begin with. Gray Hughes in the chat. What's up, buddy? And you likely won't see the shot. It will just be that he stands up right after the known timing of the shot. There will be no flash or anything that we can see. I agree. The image quality is too poor. Now, supposedly, Erica has stated, and I think it was a prelude to her interview with I was about to say Tucker Carlson. Oh God, Fox News guy, used to work for Bill O'Reilly. Anyways, it'll come to me in a minute. Jesse Waters. All right. As a prelude to Jesse Waters, apparently she's saying that I just heard this. I don't know if this is true. That apparently that some of the cameras they have captured the moment of the shot. So from those cameras, if it was generally pointing that direction, being 4K or whatever else, chances are we will see some sort of muzzle flash or muzzle blast. You typically can't see muzzle flash during daylight hours of a rifle, unless it's in shadows or something like that. But you might be able to see a muzzle blast, and you might be able to see that person pretty good, much better resolution than we're seeing from the security footage. So I'm curious to see that report, and we might live stream that or something. Oni, trying to set the record straight for all this misinformation is futile, even if you slap people in the face. Yeah, you know what? I disagree with you, Oni. I think there's some people out there. Look, I think there's more people that can be influenced. Look, us that are paying so much attention to this, we're in this little bubble. And especially if you're on X, you think like, oh my God, everybody here believes in this conspiracy. I think that as far as the population goes, I think probably 60 to 70% don't think that these conspiracies are real. I think we have this very hyper-focused portion of the population that does think some of these conspiracies are very real. I hope we're doing more good than what you're saying. And you're right. There's definitely a percentage of the population that you can influence. No matter what you present to them, it's not going to change. But then there's people even look, and I've seen it like, hey, you know, I've seen comments, Gary, I thought this, and then like I saw what you presented, and you know, I realized that doesn't make any sense. So I think we're having a bigger impact than what it feels like sometimes. Yeah, I think this is very much the case. I think this is very likely that he knew about it, but they offered him some sort of immunity, or they have some sort of plea deal. He might go to jail, but maybe for like a year or something like that if they testify against Tyler. I agree with this. I agree with this. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that too. Patty says they identified the t-shirt and sunglasses on a sketchy cam still. I think, Patty, I think they have much better resolution pictures than what they shared with us from multiple cameras and things like that. But you could still, I mean, it may not be a perfect, you know, not be able to like say in a court, like, oh, this glass is in this, but like you can get, like you can identify a shirt, like that shirt's pretty unique. The hat had some very unique, I'm not saying there aren't others like that, but that's not going to be like identifying the shirt and the hat. It's the combinations of stuff like, oh, we found this exact shirt that looks very similar. Like if you were trying to prove any one of those things, and those were like, we have to prove that this was his shirt and this hat beyond a reasonable doubt. I agree with you, but we don't have to do that, because we can say, hey, this is a shirt, looks like just like that one in the video. This is his hat. It looks pretty darn close to the one in the video. And these are the glasses. It looks pretty close to the one in the video. It's not any one of those things that is going to get us to, well, the clothes aren't going to get us to beyond reasonable doubt anyhow. I think those, but his parents or other people identifying him can use that in combination with one another and be like, that looks like clothes that Tyler has. And those clothes are going to be found, you know, they're going to be found, they're going to be DNA matched to him, you know, so there's that. Bronson, who was on the show the other night I ambushed him and put him on the crappy show. Poor guy. Sorry, Bronson. We need to have you on again where, you know, we don't have such crappy audio. For anyone wondering, you can buy modern polymer stocks for old World War I Mauser 98 rifles. You can find Mauser 98 rifles all over the sale online for cheap. So this is true. We have people coming to our shop all the time. They take an old wooden busted stock. As a matter of fact, the Mauser that somebody sent to me that's over there, I'll have to do a video of it. I can't show a rifle during a live stream. I can't handle any firearms during the live stream. You'll get cut off by YouTube and get a strike and all the other stuff. But I can show it to you, and I plan on showing it to you in a video. The point is that people take these heirloom guns that they actually want to use, because you can have a gun that's 150 years old. And, you know, if it was kept well and, you know, I mean, the steel solid and all the things, like you can still shoot these things. And a lot of people do, from World War I, World War II, all the stuff. So what they want to do is they want to replace the wooden stock. This is so common. All the time it happens. We do it for our customers all the time. They got an old gun. They want to put a modern stock that's adjustable, that's better, that's not broken, the wood's not rotten. Like, it's as common as the grass is green. I just made that thing up. I don't know if that's something people say. Covering this and correcting misinformation is incredibly important for the people and that are generally interested in truth. Yeah, and I also hope it sheds light on the fact that people are being misled by so many people, because that's a really problem that I have with some of this stuff too, is, you know, because that's the thing that's taking place for sure. This is something that I'm trying to do. I have a preconceived notion about what I think the evidence will show. With that being said, I'm trying to like remain objective and say, when we get to the trial, there's going to be certain evidence presented. Let's assess the quality of that evidence. Does that really match up? Because what we primarily have is an information vacuum that's being filled with speculation, creative and imaginative scenarios that have no basis in reality, and it's just an information gap. There is not enough evidence that I know of to convict Tyler Robinson. I think that evidence exists. I'm just saying that I can't say, hey, that shot came from him. Like, we don't have the full medical examiner report. I think all those things are fair. I'm completely open to something else taking place. We're not going to know. We can't come to a determination until we have the variables that are required to fill the information gaps, just like the ballistics question. Like, we don't know the bullet, the projectile. We don't know the type of ammunition used. We don't know the condition, all those things. Like, there's so many of these other variables that are required for us to determine whether or not this is what took place. We don't have those. So we got to wait for the trial, and then we can do a better job assessing of whether or not that information is legit or not. Oh my gosh. Kelly Rabone, breaking bad news. Hold on. Let me see if this information is on Fox. That is sad, sad stuff. That is hard to believe, folks. Hard to believe. Let's put this up there. Fox News projects Zohran Mamdani wins New York City's mayoral race. Kelly, I'm excited about having you on. It'll be a fun show. She's quite a hoot. If you guys aren't following Kelly, I highly recommend. And I think her and I actually disagree on some things with this case, which is fine. It's great. Love it. I love arguing, right? It's fun. Arguing is always fun. But we're going to be respectful and all those good things and have some fun with it. But we will. One of the things we're going to talk about is, again, ethics, right? And regardless of what you believe, there's an ethical way to approach what we have to present information. And it just comes down to being truthful and honest and being an honest broker of information. And I do think that the mainstream media has to be replaced, or we're going to lose our country, folks. I think it's one of the real existential threats that are out there. If we don't get some sort of press, some sort of people delivering information in an honest and real way, like, we're going to lose this country, because everybody's going to be susceptible to being fooled by misinformation. And I think this space is being flooded with misinformation from outside sources, political sources. I think there's foreign countries that are taking advantage of this and undermining the faith and trust in the United States, which I understand there's not much left. And I'm okay with us identifying, like, hey, the FBI lied. They don't deserve our trust. But what I'm not okay with is the little bit of confidence that I have left in my government being overran by lies from another country or from political forces. Way to give us bad news, Kelly. Thanks. Mom Donnie. That's hard to believe. It's nuts, man. Logan's Run. I have no idea what exactly took place. I just think there's a lot of suspicious stuff. Keep an open mind. I do have an open mind. All right. But I'm going to have an open mind, and I'm going to look for facts. I'm going to research for myself, and I'm not going to allow somebody. Okay, I have no problem for somebody doing some work for me and presenting facts. But again, there should be a red flag if they're not presenting, like, all possibility. If we're going to go into speculation, let's present all possibilities. And that should be kind of a clear indicator for you. And then if time after time after time, if you're watching somebody Logan's Run and they've told you they didn't go to the nearest hospital. All right. I just showed you proof that that's a lie. If they showed you other stuff, if, like, they get it wrong 80% of the time and they're only pushing one narrative and they say nothing the FBI says is true, that should be a red flag, because, like, there's a good indication that this evidence is going to hold up. Oni, what did Oni say that almost made Bronson choke? I must have missed it. I don't know why everyone didn't get their personal evidence packet from the FPS. I received mine 3 weeks ago. That's pretty good. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say to this is there is unexplained stuff for sure, and even some suspicious things. I understand. But the problem I have with this is like people turning nothing burgers into something burgers, where they're slowing footage down and they're like taking this one screenshot of this guy doing this and then saying it's a smile. You know, that one picture, I need to find that, and I'm sure I have it somewhere. That one picture of Rick Cutler where he's smiling. Folks, when you play that video in real time, you don't even see that. Somebody intentional, like, and it's just a facial expression. I'm sure if somebody went through this video today, slowed some things down, there's times where they could have pulled screenshots that make it look like I'm smiling when I wasn't smiling. And that's exactly what they did to Rick Cutler. And, you know, I got to be honest with you. I think some of these security guys whose lives have been ruined by some of the narratives that have been put out, I would be surprised if they don't file defamation suits when this is all said and done against some of the big people putting out some of this bad information. It's not good. It's not moral. It's not ethical. Some of the things that people have said about so many of the actors. And then, you know, the way that people are besmirching Erica Kirk, like, I think, again, so many of these people that claim to love Charlie are systematically destroying his legacy and everything he built. So I don't know how they could, I don't know how they can reconcile those two things. You know, saying his wife with no evidence, like, oh, I love Charlie, I'm just trying to get to the truth. Oh, by the way, his wife killed him. Charlie would be rolling over in his grave if that happened. Look, one thing that I would ask everybody in the comments is, you know, like Logan is expressing disagreement. Like, again, I'm not saying that we're not. I'm just saying make sure that you guys stay respectful of people that disagree with you. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I name names and freaking I go in a little bit of the ad hominem, and I try to be disciplined about that. I need to get more disciplined about that for sure. Gray Hughes is exactly right. So much BS put out there on the social media about this case. I can only see brown thumbnails. Yep. Yeah, this is correct. Let's see here. Mike, I don't know who you're talking to exactly, but if you're saying that I'm pushing false information, please identify what is false, and I will address it directly. If you're specific about it, I will re-engage with you. Be happy to. At Gary, Phil Lyman, what do you think involved? I don't think that there's any direct evidence that he's involved. You know, here's what I am open-minded to specifically, is that we don't have any information of Tyler Robinson, like how he came about his motive, right? Like what radicalized this kid to the point that he was going to go commit an assassination. I can't say the only thing I can definitively say, there's no evidence. There's a bunch of people creating, it's rumors and gossip. That's what we have to go on with some of the stuff. Like, it's literally just rumors and gossip. And saying, oh, you know, this person did this, and it's like this weird circumstantial evidence. It's not even evidence, or, you know, it's circumstances that people are making much ado about nothing. I don't know if Phil Lyman was involved. Right now, there's no information. And I think that if the evidence points to what it does, and we see what we kind of expect out of the trial, I think in many ways, unless there's something that comes out in that, it kind of exonerates most of these people that people are saying that they are somehow behind this or involved with this. Yeah, look, again, people, if Logan thinks things are weird, that's fine. Let him express his opinion. Don't gang up on him. It's no point in it. Let's try to do our best to be, if people are being respectful, let's make this a place to where everybody can express their differences of opinion. We can exchange ideas and all the things, right? Well, Phil and people who know him swear he's not involved. I think they're trying to at least make him look bad. I think there's forces that are intentionally trying to undermine TPUSA with this. The things that they couldn't do to Charlie Kirk while he was alive in his organization, they're doing very effectively to some extent. And again, it feels that way to me, but I think according to people donating and people getting behind, I think my perception is incorrect. And then I'm looking at X, and there's this oh my God, everybody thinks this. It's not. It's a very small sliver of the population. And I think people in general are less convinced by some of the nonsense that we see on X and other social media platforms. I don't even think a lot of people are paying attention to this like we think they are. It's important to us. It's important to me because the truth is important. I genuinely like Charlie. I like what he stands for. I like all the things. I had a real emotional response when he was killed, and I still feel that way. And then I feel I just feel like a driving force, and I'm just motivated to make sure that some common sense and some truth are presented, right? That's what I want to see. No, I disagree with this, Patty. I disagree with this premise. There are just opinions, and everyone has a 50-50 chance of being right. I got no skin in this, so I'm just saying what my gut tells me. That's fine, but I don't think there's a 50-50 chance of being right. If you follow the evidence, you're like at 90% of being right. If you just pull things out of the air and you're like, I think a drone did it that was guided by an IR laser, or some of these other things that have zero evidence behind it, it's much more into the realm of speculation, and you're further outside of what's likely to be true or plausible. So I think that's the delineation here. And I also think that there needs to be a counter campaign to the misinformation. I do think that's really important. Because, a lot of people that believe some of this stuff would never believe some of the crazy stuff if they hadn't been presented this false information. And that's been going on from day one. No matter, most of us didn't have a chance to even objectively assess what's going on, because immediately the information space was flooded with he was actually a right winger. All this, there were so many things put out that it was a palm gun, it was a camera gun, it was, the area was paved over in 24 hours, when none of that's true. So that's a problem. Well, Logan, there's nothing weird. You just want it to be, and that's okay, but you're incorrect factually. The reason for this show is because of the theories. I mean, you're not exactly wrong. I don't want to have to cover this stuff. I'd rather cover other things, but I think this is really important at this point. It's normal for people to know him, say he's not involved. We're talking about Phil Lyman, right? It's also normal for people that have zero evidence, and there is zero actual evidence of Phil Lyman being involved. It's normal for us to say there's no evidence for him to be involved. But what happens is people will get on here and do a 30-minute dissertation and a presentation with a bunch of unconnected dots, put them all together and say that this person is suspicious because of all these things, most of it being false. So what is normal is and the standard should be, is that when people are being accused of murder, conspiracy, and assassinating somebody that they're associated with. We should all be, what's normal should be is, we don't have any proof of that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it in my back pocket, but I'm not going to engage in this because there's zero proof. That's what a polite, reasonable, and sophisticated, civilized society does. And that's what we should all be as Americans, because nobody in this, like if you happen to be there or you happen to be working as detail or whatever, like none of you would want these things to be done to you. And like we've lost that empathy for some reason because we're accusing these people of some really horrendous things. Hostility towards misinformation really doesn't help solve the issue. I don't know what you mean by hostility. Look, I think we all get emotional about it. I do. I get emotional about these things. I try to temper that and try to stay even keeled about this stuff and express, but look, and I've said it before, I get super emotional. You start calling, like on the inside, I try to tamper it down so it can't be, but just being real with you, like when people start saying that, I'm being paid by another man, that gets me emotional. And a lot of other things, this whole thing gets me emotional to some extent. And it's hard to, again, it takes discipline. And the same thing, like we all need to have better mental discipline and cognitive security, right? Like you can't just let your mind wander and then your fingers type every little crazy thing and not think about the real people involved or have any care or, again, empathy for people and just flippantly say, oh, Erica's acting weird. She clearly had her husband killed. That is the mother of Charlie Kirk's children. You have no idea what it's like to be in her shoes right now. You have no idea the trauma that she's going through. And I don't know, maybe she's not. Maybe you're right. Maybe she's a sociopath. Like, and it's just like, oh, happy-go-lucky. Who cares? My husband died. I don't think that's true. I think that's highly unlikely. I bet she's done a lot of freaking, for those of you who are married, think about losing your spouse and then having to go out there being a public figure and trying to honor his legacy and get out there and do the public thing. And, she's a different person to begin with, just like that Charlie was a different person. They have a public life, like how you would express yourself and you would go about daily business with cameras in your face. None of you people, and me, including me, I don't know what that's like. And for people to go out there and judge her and just say, oh, well, she's clearly in on it. She's just wanted to take over TPU. All the horrible things that people are saying, I think is just, it's sad. It really is. Debunking or proving theories. Yes. Cool. Catholic Grape, Florida. Well, guess what? You are welcome to see yourself outside the chat. Oh, sorry, not me, but Tyler walked from. Oh, sorry, not me, but Tyler walked from behind Phil's aunt house where Phil's car was parked, walked by the house. I don't know about this, Denise. It may be very true. It doesn't mean that it's open-mindedness. Not everything is what it seems. I agree. We have to have open-mindedness and being open to changing our minds when new facts and evidence presented. But open-mindedness can't be, I just accept whatever people say with no real evidence. That's how you get duped. That's how propaganda works and is effective. That's how misinformation works and is effective. Again, we got to have some cognitive security here because just like I've talked about, we all know that the government lies. The government doesn't lie every single time. And we have to have enough intuition, intelligence, logics, and cognitive security to be able to discern when we're being lied to and when we're not. And I want to hold the government accountable for when we're being lied to. I also want to hold, if people are saying the government's lying and they're lying to us, and there's all these other entities that are lying to us, and there's evidence, and like no one's griping about this. Like we know that 90% of these things given that they are mutually exclusive, 90% of them are absolutely lies. And I want to be able to hold those people accountable, because I don't want to be lied by our government. I don't want to be lied by, grifters on YouTube and social media. I don't want to be lied by foreign actors or political actors. And that's where we need to draw the line. Open-mindedness. Open-mindedness doesn't mean to accept anything and everything. And I'm not trying to mischaracterize what you're saying, Patty. I'm just commenting by how I know some people will interpret that. Yeah, lots of things are completely perpetuated on a daily basis. Things that I know the people perpetuating them they know they've been debunked, and they know they can't be true, but it still gets likes and clicks. Fair enough, Logan. Again, it doesn't matter if you did. We've all of us here have been guilty of forwarding a meme or some other narrative that we didn't really check out, but we liked it because it fit our political. I've definitely forwarded political memes in the past that come to find out completely not true, or narratives or stories that come to find out completely not true. We've all done it, because our biases are our weaknesses, and you need to understand that, accept that, and make sure that your bias isn't being used against you to convince you of something that's not true. The people who think a Bush shot a hologram Charlie from a Viet Cong tunnel on a cell phone gun think the facts of the case are weird. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, look, I'll agree. I'm going to push back on you just a little bit, Robin. We don't have enough to know that. I think that if you come to that conclusion, I will say that you are much more grounded in evidence, truth, and logic. But there are some outstanding pieces of information that could prove things wrong. I don't think that is going to come up, but I think that's a fair thing to say. Yeah, I agree with this. I 100% agree with this, that what hospital he went to, what medical intervention they did behind the table or not, I don't think any of it matters. I think he was dead when he was on the moment that he hit the ground. Actually dead before he left the chair. I agree with that. I don't disagree with this at all. All right. Great. Yeah. There's, I got a statement from somebody that I believe that I think definitely there was no body armor. So there's that. All right. Let me see. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Nope. All right. Kelly Rabone, Wolf 6, LO, I don't need to convince you of theories, but I do bring 12 years of law-changing, award-winning TV investigative journalism and ethics to the table, so I hope that will be worthwhile. I think it'll be a fun conversation no matter what. We're going to have fun. Kelly is a Houston girl, and we're going to have a good talk in show on Thursday. Even if we disagree, we're going to walk away high-fiving one another, and probably with more respect than we arrived with for one another. Yeah, I'll leave everybody with this. Open-mindedness doesn't mean accepting any illogical theory solely because your feelings tell you there's more to the story. Your gut feeling is also where anxiety exists. I think that those are wise words. All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to call it a night tonight. It is now 10:23 here on the East Coast. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you guys go follow X. I hope you like, subscribe. I hope, I don't know, this was informative, educational, maybe entertaining. But most importantly, I think we did our best to keep it factual. That's really all that matters at the end of the day. And I would really appreciate if you guys go share that content that that podcast that we did with BX. That is not monetized, so we're not going to get anything out of it. I don't care. Chances are we have contested it. I don't know if they've replied with their review. But what that means is, and I don't care about the money. What that means when they demonetize a video is that YouTube demonetizes the video is that it doesn't get put in the algorithm. It's basically suppressed all the heck and back. So please share that information. I think that is, parents need to know what's going on. And it's a shame that most of us don't. I wasn't aware of these organizations. And I think every parent should be aware of the different networks and operations that are taking place that are systematic, that are very engineered, that are very coordinated on different social media and or games that are targeting children to exploit them in all kinds of horrific different ways. So anyways, thank you guys. If you'd like to join as members, we appreciate that. Down in the description below, if you'd like to join our newsletter, we don't spam you, don't share your information. It doesn't cost anything. You can support us on that. Right now, I'm not giving any, if you join up for free on the newsletter, you get the same level of access as everybody that's paying, that's just supporting us. If you become a member, we really appreciate that. And we will start doing some exclusive content, maybe do a live stream once every couple of weeks that are just for, paying members or whatever. I don't know. We'll come up with something. We want to take care of you for taking care of us. But anyways, folks, appreciate you tuning in. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.